was so gracious, so kind, and they bear with me for 2 years, So I enjoyed it so much, and I learned so much from them. So I'm just so glad you are here to share my faith journey with you. Hopefully, my faith journey can be something that's very encouraging to your faith journey too. Okay. And yesterday I shared a little bit with those students how I grew up in China and how I dealt with Christianity, how I resolved the seemingly apparent conflicts between Christianity and science. And so today my focus is different. I focus more on my spiritual journey, spiritual part of my journey. And first of all, I want to introduce a little bit about my background. And my background is the same as my wife's, because we came from the same hometown, born the same year, went to the same high school. She was my sweetheart, while I was not. That's usually the case, right? So not very strange. I was born in 1964 in China. That was just 2 years before the Chinese Cultural Revolution. That's the Cultural Revolution, kind of like today's Cultural Revolution here. Okay, and because China was divided into classes, and they are, and the idea is according to Marxism, and you can make progress in your society by dividing your society into classes, and pitting one class of group against another. Through this constant class struggles, you can make progress. You can make a better society. You can even achieve so-called communist utopia. That was a Marxist idea, and China tried that. Of course, you knew China failed miserably, right? And they remained poor, and they could not even make enough to feed their people. And they had such magnificent ideas, such as man could overcome heaven, and man can strive for anything if they have their will. And through such a wishful leapfrogging, right, and the Cultural Revolution, and they failed miserably. And then finally they realized that won't work. But we're repeating the same mistake here in this society. Yeah, we're divided, and people are pitting one group against another. It's not like the Chinese classes, but the same idea. Right? So we want to stand for the truth and stand up for our freedom. If we cherish them, we need to fight for them. Okay, but anyway, that was my background. Another background was China was an atheistic society. I say it's atheistic. It's not exactly like Western ideas of atheistic idea. Okay, because Chinese people believed something impersonal, heaven. They are afraid of heaven. And when they grew up, they often told, don't waste the food, otherwise the heaven will strike you, But their heaven is not like our God or any God that is personable, or that is intervening in the society, or that created the world. So Chinese philosopher like Confucius did not care about heaven or God, and he did not know the universe was created by God. That was not his focus. His focus was on how to set up order in the society, how to give the justification to the government, to the governors, to govern the society. So his assumption was people were born basically good, but the society was bad. So they need education. And whoever has a better virtue is qualified to lead. And whoever has the best virtue is qualified to be the leader of the country, even the whole world. This idea is kind of like today's popular idea. People are believing they're good, and the society is bad. So we need to change the society. It's kind of the same. You can find lots of similarity between today's popular ideologies, ideas with Confucius, with Chinese ideas. It's just too bad. And another thing, China practiced was socialism, right? Everything belonged to the country. Even your life belonged to the country. And your life is supposed to glorify the country, your families, and they don't belong to yourself. So if China wants you to do something, and you are supposed to give all you can, to the country, even at the expense of your families, marriages, and children's. That's how I grew up. And when I was growing up, my mom was working day and night, leaving her 3 children at home or playing marts. Nobody was watching their children. Nobody. Yeah, nobody was watching their children, and their children but the children did not have much, and so often I just went into the river, turning the stones, and to see if I could find any crabs, shrimp, and so I was making my own bomb with bottles, and so trying to find something to eat. Yeah. So, and also my father was an absent father in such a way that he was working like 500 miles away from home. He came home only once a year during Chinese Spring Festival time for about 1 month. And even during that 1 month, because he was brought up as a man, as a big man, and he was not told to take care of his children, or to have fun with them, or to let his children to ride on his back, right? Like here, right? So he was basically just drinking tea, reading newspaper, and enjoying his vacation at home, while his children were left there by themselves. So my father was an absent father. Of course, then I had that big grudge against him. I resented him, I hated him, I argued with him, and I rebelled from him. Yeah. So those are the backgrounds, that will serve me well, and when I became a Christian. And God has a purpose. Whatever He places into your life, He has a purpose, for His good, for your good. And so I just shared with you my experience, like in summary, brainwashing atheistic, materialistic China, brainwashed in Marxist, socialist China, and experienced terrible class struggles, and experienced the devastating cultural revolution, and then experienced that failed Marxist, socialist, communist utopia. Okay, now I want to come to the real thing, that how I became a Christian. That happened not because I wanted, okay, and I did not have any idea I would receive such a surprise and such a free gift, and that was totally out of the blue. Before I came to the United States, there was that opening. A few years before that, China started the Reformation because they had to. Because after their failed socialist experiment, they could not feed their people. They were driven, they were forced to open their door to the West because they needed to develop, otherwise the people would start another revolution, right? So they opened the door, and especially they opened the door for young people like me to come to the West to study. And there was such a called program, if you are good, you could be sent to the United States to study. So I passed the exams, but I was not sent by the government because my English was not good. And I did not like even Chinese, being honest. That time my English was not good. I barely read English, some basic English. So when I came here, I could say hello, where is the restroom? That's about it, That's about it. But I wanted to come here because my physics was good, and I was telling myself, hey, when you go to United States, it's not up to your written language. It's up to your oral ability, right? And I like to talk. I say, if needed, I can pick it up quick. So I applied for University of Minnesota, and they accepted me, admitted me. So I was so happy to go there in 1987, and I started to experience American life, And the first thing I noticed is the United States was quite different from what I heard in China. In China, before I came here, I heard this country was rotten, dying, capitalist country, right? While China was the happiest country in the world. And even Chinese were called to liberate America, to liberate the world, because they are living in deep water and fiery heat. I was ambitious. I was about to come to. I was ready to come here to rescue you guys. No, I'm kidding. But I was told, and nobody's happier than Chinese before I came here. But I came here, I found something quite different. Of course, I did not find gold, lying on the streets, and I was told. But I found people so nice, so simple, so kind, so patient. I never experienced it in China, because I was born in a persecuted class. They divided the country into 10 classes. 5 are good classes. They are friendly classes to the communist, to the revolutionary communists, and 5 bad classes. They're bad to their revolution. I was born inside a persecuted class, and then I was bullied when I was young, even by children in my neighborhood. Okay, and nobody trusted each other, because everybody was encouraged to report their neighbors for any suspicious anti-revolutionary activities. It's happening here too today. In a sense, not that obvious yet, but you see the trend is very scary. So nobody trusted each other because of that, and everybody was so tight with each other, and they try not to talk to each other, and they are very careful when they reorganize their home, sort out their like portraits, pictures, whatever, because if the portrait of Mao fell to the ground or put upside down, he would be reported to the authority. He would be in trouble. Yeah, so that was terrible. And of course, then people did not have a good relationship with each other. People distrust each other. But when I came here, I found that the world was quite different. People were so nice to me, even to a stranger, because they're all strangers to me, but they were so kind to me as a stranger. Even in my neighborhood, everybody was greeting each other. And a couple of examples shocked me. And the ones I shared with the students. On the highway, my car broke, and I needed to change the tire. A construction worker came up and drove up. He pulled up and offered help to me. I said, no, I can do it. I can change the tire myself. He said, that's all right. I'm going to park my car there and stay behind you, so to keep you safe. I say, wow, why are you so nice to me? This is unbelievable. I could not believe someone could love me like this without reason, I did not know him, I did not give him a penny, we were not friends. Because in China people were told there's no love without reason. There's no such thing called love without reason. But here I received tons of love for no reason. And particularly I received so much grace and mercy in this society. Even police and policemen were very kind, patient. They would walk with me, to direct me to go to the right place. In China, people usually don't have so much patience with you. They'll just say, go there, go there, go there, go there. Where is there? Where is it? You wonder about it, right? You don't know. And I still remember the first time I got a parking ticket in Twin Cities. And I went to the judge and told the judge that I could not read the sign. The judge said, all right, your case is dismissed. Dismissed. I could not take it. I was just curious. I wanted to go there, go to the court and to experiment, right? And that was so touchy, so touchy. And I experienced that grace many years later, another time, and too. So many of those things just kept me thinking, what made this country different? I kept asking people, and I went to pastors, went to campus ministry to ask people about it. Often I got the answer, because God loved us first. So I knew this country was built on Christian values. Or they'll say often, because someone paid it forward. Okay, someone paid it forward. That never happened in China. Except in the family, your parents paid it forward, your grandparents paid it forward. But outside the family, there's no such thing called someone paid it forward in China. The relationship is always reciprocal. If you're nice to me, I'm nice to you. But who's going to start first? Yeah. Right? We're going to get into such a dilemma, okay? Because God loved us first, so we love our neighbor. That's such a fresh idea in my mind. I say, wow. So we have to have the right relationship with God first. We have to be grateful to His love first. Otherwise, we cannot love each other. Yeah. So that's one thing. But still, yet I could not believe in God, in Jesus as my savior, personal savior, because I was quite proud of myself. Through my hard work, I thought that was through my hard work. I was thinking I grew up self-made millionaire. No, I was self-made man, right? That's what we are saying here, self-made man. And so I went to the top university in China, Peking University. And I think I was smart, but until I went to Beijing, then I found someone who is smarter than me. Then I humbled a little bit, but still, I was thinking, I don't need a God. I can save myself. And still, I could not believe there's such a thing called the afterlife, or, God created the world, I was not humble enough yet. Until one day when I was doing my physics research, I realized the whole world is made of elementary particles. That's what I was studying, researching in. And all those particles, elementary particles on that bottom level are quite simple. Quite simple. You think about those like 20, 30 elementary particles make up the whole world, right? From atom up to molecules, to inorganic matter, to organic matter, to biological, bodies, to us, to persons. You think that makes sense, right? It evolves and it comes together and so make more and more complicated things. It kind of makes sense, like you play Lego games, right? You put the pieces together. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, and also when you look at the universe in a very, very large scale, beyond the galaxies, it's quite simple too. with that background radiation, quite uniform. Everywhere you look, it's the same background radiation and 3K. Okay, only 3K degree above the absolute zero. And that means something is simple there. And but then when you focus on the detail, focus on a person, focus on a plant, focus on animal, then you find the unfathomable complexity. How could these two, complexity and the simplicity be reconciled? That struck me, and that made me thinking. And then another example was when I was when I was trying to solve that 7-year-old theoretical physics problem. I did it after about 1 month, 2 months of hard work. I did it, but only after I solved that problem, I only found more problems, more questions about the solution. Just like when you when you understand anything, right? Like why the apple is falling to the ground, then you say, oh, that's because of Newton's gravitational law. Then you ask another question: where is that gravitational law from? Why is that applicable universally here on the Earth in the United States and in China, and out of the Earth in the solar system, and out of the solar system in the whole universe? Who's going to guarantee that? Right? So that made me thinking, and I also thought about why am I thinking? Why can I think? The logic itself, the intelligence itself, is something that's challenging. Who gives you the intelligence, right? And we don't grow intelligence, right, from nowhere. And can your intelligence be evolved from inorganic matter? Like the stone, the rock cannot talk. Not to say the reason with you, right? So those things made me think. First time, because I was stumbled on something I could not fathom, and so then eventually I was humbled. I say, God, this God, there must be design behind all these wonderful things I could not fathom. There must be something that gives them the intelligence, gives them the structure, gives them the complexity. And then you thought about all those things, begin to think, why people still believe in evolution? And why do people not come to my understanding, right? Evolution doesn't work. Because they are deceived into that. And I could often point out many examples. Evolution is based on statistics. And how small is that probability, Because it's not just a simple thing like playing Lego games, like piling up cubes and building a bridge. Even that you have to have intelligence to do it. And there are so many things. You have to have so many things to come together to work even for the simple cell. It involves so many things to make one single cell to work. Like a cell has the pumps, cell has the semi-permeating membrane. The cell needs many radicals, chemicals to make it work, to provide the nutrition. All these things need to come together at the same time to make the cell work and stay alive. How could all these things come together? Who's telling them to come together at the same time? Even we cannot get people together at the same time. So all these things just points me to the right direction, to the direction that there must be an author to all this. And then, that was about time, I was I was humbled. I was pulled by the love of God through Jesus. And then doing a Christian retreat in 1988, about half a year after I came here, then I just could not hold it anymore. I just confessed, He's my Lord. He's my God. Yeah. And that was, overwhelming. That was the happiest moment in my life. And it is still my happiest moment. And John 3:16 ever since became my favorite verse. Yeah. But still, that time, I did not fully understand the justification by grace through faith alone in Jesus Christ alone. I still had that kind of wishful thinking that because I came to the United States, I heard the gospel, I studied the Bible, and I enjoyed people, and I got involved with these nice people. So I was thinking, I was kind of fortunate, right? And I worked hard. So that's why I became a Christian. You know what I'm thinking? My thinking was I was thinking, well, this is part of me, that contributed to my faith. Okay? And that idea stayed with me for many years. Until I got married. Of course, I did not fight with you, right? I did not. We had a perfect marriage, right? So through marriage, that really convinced me I could not change me, and just like a leopard could not get rid of his spots, right? I tried hard, right? And being a perfectionist, not only I drove myself a lot, I wanted to change. Every time I lost temper, I knew I was bad. I wanted to change. But I knew how hard it was to change. I don't think I have changed completely. Yes, maybe because I'm getting older, I'm tired of fighting. So I'm not losing temper that much, right? Yeah. And another thing is I drove you nuts too, right? Because I was picky, I wanted to put my standard on you. That kind of perfectionism not only hurt me, but hurt my neighbor, my dearest neighbor. And from that kind of struggle, and of course my daughter, who's the victim, not to mention it, right? And so through that kind of struggle, and also since I was thinking I was a good guy, but still I did such terrible things. And still after my striving, so many years striving, I could not change myself. And then also I thought, well, there's so many smart people out there. How come they're not becoming Christian? They're smarter than me, right? So I realized it was Jesus who gives me the faith through the work of the Holy Spirit, not me. I could not do it, After that realization, I began to feel free. Because before that, as long as I was holding, there was a part of me that contributed to my faith. Then I was responsible also for my failure. Right? I feel the guilt. I was ashamed when I failed. I was even afraid of coming back to Jesus because I did it. I was responsible. And I thought I could do it. After I failed it, then I feel terrible. Yeah. So Jesus again, showed me the truth that I could not have the faith, and I could go to Him freely without hesitation, because He won't hold me responsible. Right? And He said, "You are just Sam. You are just a sinner. You cannot help." But Jesus says to me, "I forgive you. Just remember I love you." out of the gratefulness of Jesus, then I keep trying. And out of the gratefulness for his love, then I want to serve. Yeah. So that's how I was brought into the fold of his family, and that's how he led me to him. Let me see if I have a couple of ideas I want to emphasize here. So I wanted to emphasize a couple of ideas here. The contrast between China and the U.S. that time. While China was people's relationship between people were tense. Here, people was kind, were easygoing, were kind of, for young people, carefree, and that was a very stark contrast to me. But today is not so. And when you go to the airport, you have to go through such a security check, and when you talk with people, you have to wonder, how they're going to respond to you. So all this just indicates, that the U.S. is moving not in the right direction. We need to wake up. We need to stand up for our freedom and for our values. And as I said, all this makes sense because this country is built on the Christian value. It's not built on enlightenment. Okay, enlightenment is based on reasoning without God. And what did enlightenment did to us, to the Western society? You can see that through the two World War IIs, right? World War I, World War II, and also through the Holocaust. Those are the disasters from enlightenment, consequence of enlightenment. When people throw away God, abandon God, they think they're smart, then they begin to look at people differently. They begin to think they're smarter than others. They begin to discriminate groups of people. They begin to want to optimize the society by getting rid of the disabled, the disadvantaged, or different people, or people of different color, people of different mentality. Yeah, they even abort people. Yeah, like China, they do not care. Chinese tradition is supposed to value the family very much, but because since communists came to power in 1949, they were heavy-handed, destructing Chinese tradition, including Confucianism, and also, forcing people to abort their children, to adopting one-child policy, and they did not care about anything. They are radical. All they wanted is to keep their power, and with their utopia of communism. And another thing, people did not have any idea of original sin. And here, that was something interesting I wanted to share. And there was one time, as I was talking to pastors and to other Christians, and they keep bringing up the idea of sin, original sin. I said, me a sinner? I was a good boy, and I worked hard, studied hard. I wanted to glorify my country and honor my parents, and I did not commit any crime. So I had much confusion about the difference between crime and sin, and so that's another idea. If you talk to Chinese people, you help them to clear the difference between crime and sin. And I struggled with that for months, and until finally I realized, well, there are different ideas. One is about your nature. The other is about your behavior, right? And so with the original sin, you are bound to disobey God, to serve yourself, and because of that, we cannot follow and keep the law. We cannot keep the law. And while crime is the behavior of that, some people some people are probably are not criminals, but they can be selfish, and some people probably they appear nice, but they may they may have some evil desires in their heart, right? Some people may look professional, but they may be thief, right, in their profession. So they are not caught, but they are sinners for sure. Yeah. So I was joined to Jesus by His love, and and this is the point I want to emphasize. Many Chinese, when they become a Christian, because they thought they were lucky, they were fortunate, and they followed Jesus as their example, and they did not necessarily follow Jesus as their savior. So if you bring gospel to them, make sure to give them the right idea about their faith in Jesus. He's not our example. First of all, He's our savior. If He's our example, we don't need Him. He doesn't need to die for us, right? So another thing, I went through some thinking, research about the Bible's reliability and the trustworthiness. One of the books that influenced me the most is Evidence That Demand Verdict by Josh McDowell. So that's a good book if you wanted to recommend internationals to read. That's a good book to read. It's very thick, but if they have the interest, it's a great book. Yeah. And let me see. I went to I checked out the manuscript evidence, which I don't have to go through this, and you guys know that. And I looked for the internal evidence in the Bible, the consistency. And also I looked for the historical evidence to support the Bible, Jesus' apostles all died as martyrs except John, right? And who wants to die for something they don't believe, or something they believe is a lie, right? And not just one if he's deceived, not just one who's deceived into dying for a lie. So many of them died as a martyr. And even after that, during the persecution of Christianity, centuries, right, couple of centuries, so many died for the faith in Jesus Christ. That's because Jesus changed them, transformed them, and gave them abundant life, a life they could not get in the world. Yeah, so they know after they died, they gain for themselves because they will be with Jesus in heaven. So I have those things, and I don't know if you guys have some questions for me, and we're going to take a break, right?
Yeah, I think we'll take a break. I think one thing that I was thinking of as you were talking about this is maybe just some things are just lost in translation. I know very little Chinese, but I've heard enough that part of this is a translation issue. When you talk about sin in English, sometimes it just gets translated as crime, right? I mean, is that?
Yeah, the same word.
The words, it's zui or something like that? Or
yeah, it's the same word.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you want me to write that down?
Well, you can write down the Chinese characters, it would mean nothing to me, but I think part of it too is, if you just use Google Translate or something like that, right?
Yeah.
You tell a Chinese person use that word, and they say, well, I'm not a criminal, right?
Right.
When we talk about sin, right, it's not, obviously some crime, obviously I would think most crimes are sins, right?
Right.
But, you don't have to be a criminal to be a sinner, right?
Right.
So I
Right.
think that's some of those cultural things. A lot
Yeah.
of times it is people who aren't born in China
Mhm.
reaching out. Thank God for that, but
Right.
there's those cultural barriers.
Yes, right, right. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, sir.
I just wonder, the culture, the Eastern cultures, and particularly China, in terms of striving for excellence, success, status, and, how does that, from your understanding now of our doctrine of justification and sanctification, China they're an honorable people. They want to do honorable things. They want to be viewed as honorable. And how does, I would like to hear you talk to, how does, in the sake of conversion of people, turning them over to Christianity, preaching of justification and sanctification, and you've spelled out right now, we can't do this for ourselves, but I would like to hear you talk about the in ways to the people there in terms of that doctrine.
Okay. So how do you tell them about the justification, right, by grace through faith alone? Is that your question?
Yes. Just in terms of a culture, the honor for the nation, for looking honorable, not just inside the nation, but outside the nation too, for projection of influence, etc. So I'm a military guy, have studied, why we go to war with one another, and how do you influence without having to go to war? And I, of course, as a Christian, I think, well, love your neighbor. And we're loved through this great, we're sanctified through justification that we cannot do for ourselves. And,
Right.
So just
Right.
that, and understanding the nature of the people, how they think.
Right. That's a very challenging question, and I think people have to be brought to their knee before they realize they cannot save themselves. Especially among Chinese, they are brought up in the family that they can achieve anything through their own effort, and they are expected to honor their parents, to glorify the country. And I guess you can point out first, well, it's not always like this in Chinese history. Before the Zhou dynasty, that was a time when David was crowned a king. Chinese culture was like a theistic culture. They believed in God, in heaven. They called that God, heaven. And they looked for heaven's guidance. And whoever was the emperor, because he had the heaven's mandate, right? And but when that dynasty did so bad, the last emperor did so bad, then the next dynasty changed it. It changed the world view. They abandoned heaven, and they transformed the culture into a virtue-based culture. And so ever since then, the Chinese culture is a virtue-based culture. And Confucius took that idea and made a systematic, political, moral system. And that was promoted by the dynasties, by the political system, politicians, for their governance of their country. And because of that kind of promotion, because they believed everyone is basically good, society is bad. And so they encourage people to receive education from saints, from those sages, and to practice their virtue and to grow their virtue. When they grow their virtue, then they are entitled to govern, to lead the people. And whoever has the most virtue is qualified to lead the country, even the world. And so that you point out this kind of background, then you ask them, what's your ambition, Have you tried to grow your virtue? And do you know how hard to grow your virtue? How much or how easy to change yourself? Because Chinese also know it's even mountain is easy to change your country than your nature, right? They say you can turn a country upside down, but it's hard to turn your nature upside down. They knew that, and then they say, then you can ask them, how much time do you have to live? You want to change your nature, and it's hard. And would you like to enjoy your life now? Would you like to find freedom now? And when you try to strive to change yourself, not only you are hurting yourself, you are hurting people around you, right? And that's a hopeless striving. And so why not come and look, come and see, open the Bible. Maybe you'll find a different idea. Maybe you'll find an abundant life instead of striving, instead of shame, instead of feeling of guilt. Maybe that's the way you can start, Yeah. Hopefully that helps a little bit. Hey, Pastor, come in.
Dr. Lee.
Yes.
Something that we talked about last night is that you emphasized something at the beginning of your talk about being humbled by a realization of the immensity of the universe and its organization, even though a lot of details, still there's a uniformity. We Lutherans do not emphasize natural revelation of God very often. But that's really what you were talking about, how God reveals himself through and the things that he has created.
Mm-hmm.
And you said that brought you to humility.
Right.
We quite often emphasize we are humbled by the law which convicts us of our sin. But you were saying first you were humbled by this realization of your smallness compared to the immensity
Right.
of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
And then later came this conviction
Mm-hmm.
of sin.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
But you first, and I think we Lutherans don't talk very often about natural revelation.
Mm-hmm.
But you spoke about it. That's probably more significant than I realized.
Right.
Than
Right. Yeah. Usually we use a small catechism, right? When we preach the gospel to people, we use a small catechism, starting with the law, the Ten Commandments. And I'm afraid that won't work effectively with the Chinese. It's the same idea, right? Because you're brought to your humbleness. That's the work of the law, right? The law shows your sin, right? But if you take the small catechism and walk them through the Ten Commandments in such an abstract way, that's not relating with the Chinese, because the Chinese don't think that they are bad. Yeah, and they don't have much idea about the Ten Commandments. When you say, well, there's no God, no other God, and you should fear, love, and trust God above all things, their mind is not with you. It's too abstract. It's too remote to them. Okay, and you start from where they are. Then you needed them to the wall, to death, basically, to die. You needed them to where they die. basically. And that's how I was led by God, to the dead end, right? I thought I could figure out everything, but then God showed me the complexity, the paradoxes, and then God led me to where I had to confess, yeah, this is my end. I have reached my end. God led me to die to myself in that regard. Then God say, turn to me. In the same time, he was pulling me, right? By the love of Jesus, he was pulling me at the same time. He said, don't desperate. Turn. You'll have life. I think that works better with the Chinese. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Well, John, I still have maybe one more question. We'll try to take a break. But go with John.
Yeah. As your walk of faith increased into Christianity, was there certain individuals who helped and guided you along?
Oh, certainly. Certainly. I give a couple of examples. One is a Chinese man who came 1 year before me, and who became a Christian before me. He was a quiet guy, but he was very kind, unusual Chinese to me. And I was touched by him because when I needed help, he would come to help me, fixing my bikes, and taking me for grocery shopping. And so he plays guitar, he needs Bible study. So he's a good example and led me to Jesus. And another one was a gentleman, actually a couple, Caucasian couple, Scandinavian guy, tall. We often sat in Perkins, right? That time Perkins were open 24 hours a day. And so we stayed, we drank a lot of coffee. He was such a gentle guy. He knew I was a scientist. He would share with me those scientific discoveries. Even back 30 years ago, he shared with me the micro machines working in the blood vessels, right? Cleaning up your blood from too much cholesterol. All right, that was fascinating. Then he began to tell me, who gave them such an ability to develop such a wonderful machine? Who gave us such intelligence, right? And he invited me to his home for Christmas, for Thanksgiving. He was a great influence. And besides them, I had so many, even general public, my neighbors, they were all instruments of God's love in my life. It was overwhelming. Yeah, I could not. I just wanted, and I was thirsty for His love. See you yesterday? No, not yet.
No. At the university, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I wasn't.
Yeah. So that was we had a room for of students and pastors and and that was good.
Yeah, that is good.
Yeah. So yes, John, do you have a question?
Yeah, question. How did you get appointed with Lutheranism?
Okay.
Oh, it's coming up.
Yes. Thank you. You're ahead of me. Well, if you have any question for my faith journey so far, and I know John is cannot wait. If I have any question, feel free. Okay, you can ask me any question.
So maybe Pastor mentioned you are traveling back to China.
Right.
So do you have concerns that you might not get back out again?
I have worse concern. Something called vaporization. People just become a vapor, disappeared, right? You heard about that? You know, this is, you know, the latest news is that the Chinese defense minister did not show for over 2 weeks.
Oh, yes, I heard that.
People wonder about what happened to him. Is he vaporized? You know, it's happening often in China. You know, especially with Xi, it seems like it's happening every month, you know, so often these days. That can be a concern. I'm a little bit concerned for that. But hey, if I vaporize, I vaporize. You know, right? Life, right? The temporary life is just like grass. Today here, tomorrow gone. It's a gain to me with faith. That's what I'm thinking. And my mom passed away 21 years ago. My father passed away last year. I don't have much concern, you know, for them. They're in a better place. You know. Yes, I'd rather go back and enjoy my parents' in-laws, and my sisters, and my brother-in-laws, and my classmates, and so many friends. Yeah, but if it happens to me, it happens to me. But I wanted to be wise, right, as a serpent, you know, to minimize whatever, you know, that might bring trouble to me, and most importantly to people I'm going to, you know, bring the gospel to ministry to. You know, that's my top concern. Yeah.
Because I mean, just to kind of quote what we talked about at dinner last night, you kind of said, you know, your thought would be the worst, in a sense, likely what would happen for you is you get deported, which would be sad, but...
That's most likely.
Most likely if something bad were to happen, but then obviously your main concern would be for family or people that you're in contact with who are Chinese nationals.
Right.
And that's maybe more, seems like you're a bigger concern.
Right. That's why I'm postponing my ordination until I return. You know, God willing, I'll be ordained this year or beginning of next year. Yeah, thank God. Any more questions about my faith journey so far? Otherwise, then I will start my second leg of my faith journey, okay? And that's more interesting. Because God was not done with me yet, you know. He said, okay, now you're a Christian. Now you can relax and go to beach, enjoy the rest of your life. You'll be ever happy ever after. No, there's no such Cinderella story that goes with me, okay? There's no such Cinderella story. And almost immediately, you know, and God brought me into testing, into suffering, into many things, you know, that serves His purpose. That is to grow me, you know, to equip me, to prepare me to serve Him, you know, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Okay, so it starts like this, okay, because I like to talk, right? I like to I like to serve, and but when I served, you know, and in the beginning I was serving myself mostly, you know, and because I like to talk, and even when I was even before I became a Christian, I was serving kind of like an MC among internationals, among students, and I liked to help around. And because it feels good, I feel good, you know, from that serving, and so God used me for that. And over time, after I became a Christian, and through the suffering in my marriage, and you know, I'm a very good person outside of my family, outside of the marriage, you know, but except in the family, right? And so then I began to really understand and appreciate justification by faith, you know, by grace through faith in Jesus Christ alone. That was a transforming moment. Until then, you know, I was pretty much still serving myself. You know, yes, I had Christ as my great example. You know, I wanted to serve my neighbor. I wanted to help people, but I was thinking, well, that made me feel good too. You know what I mean? and instead of giving glory to him, and because I thought I contributed to my faith, so I deserve the credit, and I feel good. But after I became a Lutheran, okay, let me tell you the story. I became Lutheran is because when I worked for GE in 2005, and I learned about a Chinese fellowship group. That time was hosted in the Elm Grove Lutheran Church. Elm Grove is a city about 15 miles west to Milwaukee. And I wanted to serve. So I went there. I talked to the two pastors there. One is Pastor Larry Myers. I don't know if you know him. The other one is Pastor Eric Skovgard. Both are great pastors with with quite different personalities. Okay, one is stern, the other is very personable, but both have great hearts. Both have great hearts. So I liked them so much, saying I questioned, asked them about their doctrine. And then I found, hey, I agree with your doctrine, right? And I agree with the justification, the doctrine of justification. And then they say, then come, be our member, come to this church. Then I say, yeah, sure. And in the same time, I was not happy with my daughter's elementary school teacher, who was who kept complaining about my daughter not mingling with her classmates during the break hours, break time. And I was telling the teacher, I say, if you tell me my daughter not socializing with other classmates 1 month after that happened, my daughter lost 1 month's time of education and growth, right? I want you to tell me right away, right? I want you to encourage her to do that. I want you to find a way to encourage her to socialize. But the teacher did not do anything, just complained. Then I pulled my daughter out of the school and put my daughter into the Elm Grove school, the EGL school, the church school. And because I thought, well, if they could not help me, at least I wanted my daughter to receive a Christian education. And by that time, I knew already, that's more than any academic performance. Because worshiping the academic performance, right, and the grades is an idol. And it's happening in this country, even in my school, even in my church school. So many parents, they're chasing the academic performance, at the expense of their faith, at the expense of the walk with God, with Jesus Christ, and living in the Word. So I went there and served, helped around in the Chinese fellowship until the pastor at that time, who was from the Wales, passed away in 2015. Yeah. Then they asked me to lead the group, and through that kind of leading the group, the Chinese fellowship, until the COVID-19 came, and then I was tested, and then I was given confidence that I could help, I could bring gospel to people, and I could serve God. That built my confidence. Besides, I was very active in the church, and besides acting, before that, I want to share you another story. Because before I went to the Elm Grove Lutheran Church, I was going to a mega church called the Spring Creek Church. I don't know if you know that. It's a mega church, formerly a Baptist church, and I visited other big churches, and some other churches like First Assembly of God, Presbyterian churches, and so on. Often, I went to those churches. I feel like I was a stranger, And I was sitting there, and people walking by, and they just said hello to me. And not all of them. I felt strange. I felt, well, they're Christians. They're supposed to be friendly, right? They're supposed to greet you. That's what I was thinking, right? And then one day it came to my senses. It came to my senses, kind of like God was telling me, hey, Sam, you're a Christian too. You're called to reach out. Why are you waiting to be reached? You are supposed to reach out, right? So that was the moment God called me to serve. And realized God called me to serve. So ever since then, wherever I go, I instead of being served as a guest, I serve as a master. How good you feel, wherever you go, you serve as a master. Think about it. Instead of waiting to be served, you serve as a master. Not only you don't have to worry about being served, or waiting to be pampered, waiting to be, to be put in a good position. You are serving people. You are forgetting yourself. You are out of the misery. Not many people want to serve. And those people who are waiting to be served often fall into the misery. You know that. And because they are waiting and they don't get what they want. So that was the moment God called me to serve. And that changed my life. Ever since, I never had that complaint. I never complained about, hey, what's going on with the world? God just basically told me, the world as it is. But you are called to serve. You are a Christian. Okay, that's one example. God called me to serve. So after I came to the EGO, went to the EGO, then I began to serve. I served on the Board of Education 2 terms. I served on the team of ushers, and now I'm joining the Board of Elder, and served as a Vicar, and I loved serving. And from serving, I loved to learn, and I learned a lot. And so God just prepared me through all this serving and changing, transformation. And another thing God changed me a lot was how I forgive them, how I forgive my father. I think I mentioned my father was an absent father, and because of that I resented him. I held a grudge against him for years, for decades. Until 2007, I was working in GE, in the office, in the evening. An idea came to me, Sam, call your father, apologize to him. Then I picked the phone, I apologized to my father. I say, Father, all these years I did not understand you, I did not appreciate you, and I hate you, and I held a grudge against you, and I apologize for that, for my rebellion against you. You know what I heard then? My father said, immediately my father said, oh, son, I'm sorry, I did not know to be a father. I'm sorry, please forgive me too. That changed me. Because ever since then, we began to grow like a body. I took him on vacations whenever I went to China. And even when he was in his 80s, I took him on vacation. We were in the same hotel room. We talked. Oh, we could talk for hours. We often had to urge each other, hey, time to go to bed. We need, right? We became closer and closer and became a body. How I wish that I could go out fishing with him. That was the power of God's forgiveness. People did not know that. Chinese don't know that. I did not know that until that moment. And so God was preparing me, hey, I have showed you my sweetness. Take it and serve others. So many people need it. That's the idea I got from God. And so So even when I got the idea, I got upset with my wife. I would have held myself to that belief that we should forgive each other. We should not harbor our anger, to sunset, right? And so God prepared me through this kind of transformation, through this kind of enlightenment. This is a true, real enlightenment, because God put me in the right relationship with Him. And another thing God prepared me is through the passing of my mother and my father. I remember 21 years ago when my mother passed away, I felt like a big pillar of the house fell to the ground, and the house collapsed. I felt half of my body, kind of chipped away. And I was so sad. I felt so terrible, because I was very close to my mom. And for about half a year, I did not even talk to people other than working, getting job done, paying the bill, coming home, spending a little time with my wife and with my daughter. I was miserable. I was miserable. Even I refused to talk to friends when they called, because I thought that they could not help me. After about half a year, then I began to realize my mother was gone. I got turned to Jesus. He's still there. See, through this kind of suffering, through this kind of, God brought me to the right focus, right, to turn me around to Him. And then when my father passed away last year, I no longer felt so terrible, because I knew he's going to be in a good place. And because at that time, I was more securely anchored in Jesus Christ. Yeah. So God wanted me to grow, to serve, and to focus on Him. And God has prepared me to serve Him. Okay. Until then, 2018, I was sitting in the church with Pastor Larry Myers. That time he was retired. And I was asking him, hey, through all these years, decades, I've done all kinds of software engineering, from the top to bottom, from the surface to the back end. And I kind of feel like that's not that meaningful to me. Yet at the same time, I wanted to serve God. That time we were hosting international students in our home, okay, only in one home, and we have hosted about 10 international students, including high school students, visiting scholars, and Korean, Chinese, and I loved hosting them. My wife was a great hostess, and he's my life helper and my invaluable partner in the holy ministry. And through that kind of serving, also God opened my eye to see the wider open field. Okay, wide open field, harvest field. All those young people, especially those Chinese high schoolers, middle schoolers, they are so spoiled today. They're so spoiled today. They think the money can solve everything. They think that's all they need. Even this morning, I was talking to a lady in the hotel. She was having trouble with that waffle maker, and then we talk about the phones, and she says she doesn't know how to use the phones, but she says if she has a problem, she can use she can ask her 3-year-old granddaughter to figure out how to use her smartphone. I said, great. great, you don't need to know phone. I say, you have children, you have grandchildren, that's all you need. But think about it, I say, today's children don't want to have children. When they are your age, they don't know smartphone, and they don't have children. How much worse that's going to be, right? So she got it, and so we had a good chuckle, and yeah. So God was preparing me to focus on Him and prepare me for His ministry, and those are the moments I want to share with you. Let me see if I have some ideas here to share with you. This is the wrong place. So I shared with you like I from a caterpillar to butterfly. I use caterpillar as a baby question, right? Caterpillar, right? To butterfly. So I feel really free, like a butterfly. Not beautiful, not in that sense. Okay. Yeah. So and I grew through suffering. And there's a good purpose in that. And in Christ, there's no true suffering. So every suffering is for your good. Okay, for His purpose. And then I was called to serve God. And I shared with you, we served international students, and then Pastor Myers, right? I was sitting in the church. Pastor Myers then brought us the idea of the SMP. SMP stands for Specific Pastor Program. Okay, and I'm a second career guy, so basically it's a remote learning opportunity. Okay, it's asynchronous. Okay, they have recordings of the class, the lessons. And they assign works for you to do, readings for you to read. Then you do the homework. They grade your homework. Occasionally they may meet you on the Zoom, but most of the time you don't see them. You don't see professors. Okay, and about 16 courses, 4 courses each year, and you go to the campus for 1 week every year. That's called an intensive week. That's the SMP program. But it's quite intensive though. And for most of us, we have 7 of us. And except me, they are part-time student. And they have their other works, like firefighter, already serving the church as a pastor, not as pastor, as a vicar. And as a horseshoe maker, I don't know the name that term, and as a principal, I was a full-time worker, full-time student. I'm the only one who's a full-time student because I knew if I study part-time, I would not be able to pass it, still because I knew, and my right side was rusty. And my left side was not left with much, so I knew that, and thank God, the church and the district provides my basic living, and we got enough to live on. And my wife was happy with that, and she's not asking for more than that, right? And so, without my wife's support, I wouldn't be able to do this. If she's asking for millions, I cannot give. I wouldn't be here talking. So, and but God was so gracious, and I think I shared with you who was kicking and screaming. I think that's you, right? Pastor Thompson. Oh, over there, Pastor Thompson, you were kicking and screaming. I was kicking and screaming too, not once, twice. The first time is when they say, well, you go to the SMP program, okay? I say, okay, great. Now I can study God's Word and I can get myself prepared Then I can move to Asheville on top of the mountain and plant some potato, sweet potato, and enjoy my life. And once in a while, I go to the campus and bring a couple of students back with me. Have some beer and some wine. All right, some enjoy myself, right? Basically, they say, "No, Sam, God is calling you to do more. You got to become a pastor." I say, "Becoming a pastor, I have to write a sermon. I have to go through all the liturgy." Oh, that was I was kicking and screaming. I said, "Oh no, no, that's not what I wanted to do. I don't think I'm ready for that." My pastor said, "You'll be ready over time. You'll be ready." Indeed, over time, one by one, God pulled me through. Practiced liturgy. My pastor, my mentor, Pastor Skoga, showed me how to do that and gave me opportunities to preach as a vicar. And still, I had a tremendous trouble with writing sermons. It takes me a couple of weeks to write a sermon. So if you wanted me to preach every Sunday, then I have to run. You won't see me. I see you every other week. So I was screaming, but I said, "You'll be ready. Over time, you'll be ready." Okay, and so that was first time, and the second time then came when the COVID came, right? Soon after, half a year after I entered into the seminary, COVID came in 2020. Then Chinese stopped coming. Not a single one. They came to play basketball with masks on, but they would not come to do Bible study with 6 feet between them, with masks on. They won't, because they don't value Bible study as important as playing basketball. That's another thing. If you want to reach out to Chinese, you got to reach out to them from where they are, right? Serve them, meet their needs, and so you can retain them, keep them coming. Then you can feed them with the spiritual foods. Otherwise, they just don't see the need to have a Bible study. They come to Bible study because they have to come to play basketball. Then, okay, by the way, there's a Bible study. All right, fine. Okay, then we'll do Bible study. That's it. So without the Chinese fellowship, nobody came. Well, I was going to the seminary, to prepare myself to grow a church out of that Bible study group. I was wondering, I was paid, I was trained, I was educated, but then there was no harvest field. I was kind of embarrassed. And then I after much struggle, then I submitted my resignation. I said, I cannot keep going like this. After 1 year, you did not see the end of this, the COVID. And I say, I feel embarrassed. I don't want to keep getting paid, educated, but nowhere to serve. So I submitted my resignation. My church approved. My district tried to persuade me to change my mind. And then seminary encouraged me to keep going. They say, "Sam, keep going. After graduation, you'll be fine. You'll have a place to serve." So I was touched, I was moved, and I take their word. Then I keep going, and then that time I could be ordained, because I was kicking, screaming, worried about my future. I did not see God's plan, and so God still, kept me on the right track, preparing me, even though I did not see the future by my side, but He wanted me to see my future by my faith in Jesus Christ. So keep going. I kept going for another 2 years, right? And so now I'm done with my coursework. God willing, I shall be ordained. I shall be ordained this year or the beginning of next year. And so God prepared me through all this kicking, screaming, suffering, transformation, and and also the understanding his doctrine, and through the camaraderie with my cohorts, and knowing, and encouraged by them. Some of them are in their 70s, who they even came to the seminary, to become a pastor. That's unbelievable, It won't happen in China, People in their 70s, they're supposed to retire, enjoy the rest of their life on the beach, and in their vacation home or in the north, right? So I'm just so encouraged by God's preparation. He's preparing me. So I'm excited to come here, to share my faith journey with you. And God has his plan for me, and I trust Him. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. Okay, questions?
Just a kind of follow-up, maybe you don't have the answers or nothing's in stone, but has there been kind of hints from the district of ideas of what you might be, because it sounds like from when COVID hit, kind of the Bible study kind of went with it, but does the district have ideas of ways you might be serving here in South Wisconsin that you could share with us, or if it's...
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure, I think it's no secret.
Sure.
Yeah, and one day Dr. Metter, the mission executive, right, of the South Wisconsin district, sat down with me and he asked me where I want to serve. He proposed 3 options. One is serving in the Metro Milwaukee area and working with Lutheran Memorial Chapel in Shorewood, with Martin Luther King High School, because they have tens of Chinese high school students, and with Marquette, Marquette University, and the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, but not many Chinese going there after COVID. Okay, that's one option. The other is to serve in Madison. You can still find many Chinese students there, and many other international students. And what's the third option? I think I talked about the 2 other options. One is a high school, Martin Luther High School. The other is Shorewood, the Metro Milwaukee area. And so I was thinking, well, if I want to serve, I want to maximize the use of me, right, to serve God, and. Of course, then to me, it's obvious to go to Madison. So he said, okay, I send you to Madison. Then even before that, he sent me to Madison to work with students, right, at the Calvary Lutheran Chapel. That's where the bookstore is, yeah, on the campus, right in the center of the campus. And so I worked with them, and I talked to them, and then I knew the board members, and I'm sure Dr. Mayer talked to them, so they are fine with me. They understand my Chinglish, and so that's their plan. They'll send me to Madison to serve God. Yes.
Yes, you said there are more Chinese students there.
Yes.
Do you have any numbers?
I heard they have probably 200, 300 Chinese students there. It's very strange, before the COVID, we used to have lots of Chinese high school students going to Martin Luther High School. And at its peak, we had like 60 Chinese high school students just going to Martin Luther High School, out of like 400 students. Yeah, that's a lot. And we had probably about 100 Chinese students going to Marquette. And that time we had a grocery shopping group, because when we went out shopping, we would take a couple of them out shopping, But after COVID, nobody. But it's nowhere near to that 20, 30 students yet. Yeah, so that's not going to work there. Although I think that's a great idea. To work with high school students is not only not easier, but they are more receptive. And from my experience working with students, the college students in Madison, where we had some open houses, open tables outside of the church, and many of those many people just walk by, and they are not like when I came to this country. I was so curious. I was wondering about this country. I was wondering about people. I was wondering about the culture, the values, the world views. This international students, they walk by with a closed eye, and they don't have much curiosity about our culture or values. I don't know what's going on, and my theory, I have some theories that's not proven, okay, is one is they have been puffed up, through years of the prosperity in China. Chinese government kind of like prop them up. China is building high rises, new buildings, building the trains, and becoming so developed, so new, and China is so strong, so good, so prosperous. And United States still has something much to offer, like science and technology. Just go there, learn from them, then come back. It's better to live in China. That's another thing they are told, especially lately, starting from last year and this year. Many of them, before they came here, they are told by the Chinese government, don't go to church. Don't go to their Bible study. Okay? And if you go to the Bible study, go to church, and you're going to have trouble. You're not going to have promotion, your career will suffer, your family may even suffer too. And I heard from a minister who kept going to CUW, Concordia University in Wisconsin, right, to teach Chinese students Bible stories, because their English is still not good enough, right, to understand the Bible, and they have a homework problem. Then he went there, talked to them. He told me whenever they are sent to the United States, they have a leader above them to check on them, to ask them to report their activities, where they have been, where they have gone. So if those are proven true, and I believe Chinese government is more than capable, more than willing to do these things, as they did in the past. And I have no doubt they may do this. And then our outreach strategies, should be more careful. One is protect their safety, right? And that's why these days you don't see their pictures, right? Or you see their pictures with their eyes blackened out, right? And you don't want to show their identities. Otherwise, if they don't feel safe, they want to come to the church, right? And another thing, another strategy is now we needed to do more harder work. Like we need to reach out on the personal level, reach out, to where they live, to host the Bible study in their dorms, right, in their house, visiting them. It's just a lot harder today, but it's more personal, and perhaps it's more effective. So that's why today's international student ministry is different from 30 years ago. 30 years ago, we had a campus ministry, campus crusade, and foreigners would flock to their tables and ask about the Bible, ask about their faith, their worldview. But today, many internationals don't care. Yeah. But one thing, they still love to have a community. They still love to find a place where they belong. So if you have friends around you, and you gather friends around you, and then they see that's where they belong, that's a community, they are comfortable, they'll keep coming, but you just make sure, and they are safe, and that whatever talk there, won't be published, won't be made public, right? Then they feel comfortable, they feel safe. That's what we want to make sure. Yeah, Pastor Thompson.
You were talking first session about a little bit about the history of China, and I thought it was fascinating how the older empires and dynasties at least would acknowledge heaven, but then it switched to the newer ones where it focused on people and our abilities. I thought that slide there.
Right.
And I don't know if you've seen, Concordia Publishing House published a few years ago a couple of books on the Chinese language, the ancient Chinese language, and how the pictographs displayed a knowledge. They were dispersed from the Tower of Babel, and how, I believe it was, it's been a few years since I've read the book, but how the word tempter shows 2 trees.
Yes.
And how flood shows 8 people in a boat. 8
Right.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you looked into that at all? Are you aware of that?
Yes, I did. And even the Chinese fellowship pastor showed us the connection between Chinese words and the Bible. And like your 2 examples are, wonderful examples.
Fascinating how it was there. The knowledge of God was there.
Yeah. That's a good place you can start to reach out to Chinese. Show them those characters, point out they are connected to the Bible. They will be, they'll be so amazed. Yeah. Go ahead, John. Okay.
Gotta watch out for your answer.
Yes, Pastor.
Dr. Lee, you're a vicar. When I was a vicar, it was the school year 62, 63 at Carbondale, Illinois, which is where Southern Illinois University is. And I remember visiting with students, and the Chinese students that I made contact with told me they had a Chinese Bible study in the homes. And I don't remember the number. I'm thinking of hundreds of Chinese students at that university at that time. Just reminds me and that they enjoy, of course, getting together. I met a few of them, and they really never invited me to the Chinese Bible study because it was in Chinese. But I'm struck by the fact that there's still that opportunity,
Right.
Where they gather. That's good.
Oh, you want to know this? It's very encouraging. While here we have Bible study, right, in the church, but we don't have Bible study in the house. Even in the church, our Bible studies are limited to 1 hour, no more than 1 hour. If you go over 1 hour, people become antsy, right? They look at their watches. You know what they mean, right? But with this group of people in Beijing in my Bible study, they can spend hours. 3 hours they would not call quit. It was their lunchtime, and they keep it going. They, so enthusiastic. And times the first time I started that Bible study, almost after 10 o'clock, I became kind of tired, and next day I could not even get up. And next day I said, well, from today on, I think we should keep this Bible study to 1 hour, 1 hour and a half or something, you know. But it just could not stop in the middle of their this enthusiasm, you know. They were so enthusiastic. And so, thank God, God led me to continue, and I got used to it. Our Bible study is not 1 hour, it's 2 hours, 3 hour Bible study. If I did not tell them to stop to go to have lunch, they probably could keep going. Yeah, they have so many questions.
To clarify what you're saying that you're meeting with people on Zoom or something like that.
On Zoom, right.
But, you know, their lunchtime is 10 o'clock p.m. your time, which gets to be
Bedtime.
late for you, but
Yeah.
it's amazing that they're so interested in
Yeah.
being there for 2 hours, 3 hours.
Right, yeah. So people are, you know, just we need to find the right approach and meet where they are, and just be genuine and be the light to the world and be the God's instrument of love. You know, I'm sure the harvest is there, and God has a purpose for us. They will come. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
So the students that you'll work with then will just be there for their, I assume, like a 4-year undergraduate program or a 2 or 4-year graduate, and then they'll be required to go back to China. So, and also when you came to study, you said you were at the University of Minnesota, like the country allows you to study, but they're expecting you to come back and use your knowledge then in China, correct?
When I came, I was expected to return because I got a J1 visa. That's for exchanges, visitors, visiting scholars. So I was expected to return to China. But nowadays, these students are not required to return to China because they have a F1 visa. F1 visa is a student visa. So after 4 years, they can continue into their graduate study here. And after graduation, they can find a job. They can look for jobs. And if their employers apply for H1 visa for them, then they can stay. But if they cannot find such a job to help them to get an H1 visa, then they are required to return, to be out of the country in 60 days. Yeah. So it's not because Chinese government expects them to return or require them to return. It's because the expiration of their visa. Yeah. But many of them, I would say probably most of them chose to return to China these days. I think that's a pattern you see even even back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, right? Japanese came, many Japanese stayed, but ever after the 80s, then they came, they learned, then they returned. Yeah, and the same with Taiwanese. Now it's happening with the people from mainland China. Yeah, because when they came, they were already spoiled in a sense, and they lived a happy life, right? One child, and kind of like the solar system, right? They're the sun of the 9 planets revolving, rotating around them. They are the center, But once they came here, they would not experience such a pampering, So they missed that. They wanted to return. And besides, many of them are from families, well-to-do families. They either have business or they are well-to-do. Their families can provide job opportunities or provide what they need. So many of them are returning to, yeah. But in my generation, most of us, who chose to stay.
Maybe one last question.
Yeah, go ahead, Shani.
What led you to become a U.S. citizen? What
was your thought process there?
Okay. To me, where to go? You know, it's kind of like Peter, right? When Jesus asked, "Do you want to go?" Peter said, "Where to go?" To me, where to go? It's the same because I came from a persecuted class in China, and I wanted to leave China because I did not have good experience in China. My family was persecuted. I was bullied. And my eldest sister was taken away her position, inherited position from my father. Yeah, so I knew the country was not that good, you know, and I knew people were not trusting each other. I knew that was not a country I wanted to stay if I had opportunity to live. And I did not expect the United States was that good either. So I was searching for alternative. But I found the United States, and I came here, thank God, He led me here. And especially, He led me to hear the gospel, right? That changed me in my mind. I said, where to go? And I heard about Europe, and Europe was a closed society. They are not welcoming immigrants, you know. While this country was wide open to immigrants and to strangers like me, you know. And when you put them into comparison, right, pros and cons, well, I knew I would not be able to honor my parents as I would like to. But I invited them over here twice. Each time they stayed with me for half an hour. I invited them to stay with me for the rest of their life, but they chose to return. Yeah, so even though they wanted me to return, I said no. I don't want to go through the same thing. This, you know, hopeless, same thing, senseless, you know.
I think I'd do the same.
Yeah, I came here with borrowed money, you know. And so at that time we were expected to return, but after our graduation, you know, even before graduation, we tried to stay as long as we could, and some of us changed their schools, changed their programs. They just try to prolong their stay, right? And so they want me kicked out of the country. Yeah, we were desperate. But thank God, you know, and that the June 4th event happened, right? The June 4th Tiananmen event happened. Then we were granted permanent resident status for whoever Chinese who came here before 1990. Yeah, so I did not go through the regular immigration process. So like an employer apply H1 visa for you, then green card, you know. So I got a green card, yeah, right away in 1 year, and that was pretty quick, yeah. Sure.
I guess the amplifier does work. Well, thank you again, Vicar Lee, for coming. He'll be here tomorrow preaching at the service and then teaching Bible study. So yeah, again, there's another chance to see him if you're in town then. But again, thank you so much for coming, and maybe we can close with a quick prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to hear about how you call us from all corners of the earth. We thank you for the opportunity you have given Sam to share the gospel with those he has come into contact with. We pray that you would help us to be lights of the gospel to those with whom we interact with, and bless our days, all the days of our life. In your name we pray. Amen.